Hi everybody, I am here today. Instead of doing a review for a film, I'm going to do an analysis. This is something I wanted to do for the last week after watching this film, and I just waited a wee while because I wanted to be prepared for this. This is going to be spoiler heavy. I want to talk about the movie in full. I was going to do a review, but I don't think I could do it justice without talking about the ending and some other parts of the film that would be, spoiler heavy. So this film is called The Lobster. It's by a director who I absolutely adore now, and I think he's probably one of the best directors working at this time. His name is Yorgos Lanthimos, and he has directed such great works as, let me show you, Dogtooth, Killing of a Secret Deer, and recently The Favourite. And the film I really want to talk about most is The Lobster. This is definitely my favourite film out of everything he's done so far. Originally it was Dogtooth. I absolutely loved it, and to be honest, I kind of want to do an analysis video on that. I might get around to that at some point, but at the moment I just watched this, and honestly I think it is my favourite film of 2013. This film just really spoke to me, and I just got it. It really just, I loved it so much. And I was just constantly invested just watching it the whole time. So let's just go straight in, shall we? When I first started watching Yorgos Lanthimos films, the first one I watched was The Killing of a Secret Deer. And honestly, I just didn't get it. I didn't understand. Everything is so monotoned, and things, it was just very uncomfortable. Just the camera work and music, I didn't get it. I didn't get what it was trying to tell. And looking back on it, I really want to rewatch it again. But his directing style really fascinated me, and that's why I kept watching his films. So next I watched The Favourite, and as though I did enjoy it, I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. Then I watched Dogtooth, and when watching Dogtooth, I finally got it. I finally understood what he was going for his films, and now I kind of want to rewatch those previous two. Because Dogtooth was an amazing film. I loved it so much. So then I watched The Lobster, and honestly, I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I thought I would. But I just got it. It made sense to me. It made a lot of sense to me. Maybe that's just because of my personal experience in life. I don't know. But I've seen some people just say they don't get it. And to be fair, I can understand. It's a very unusual sort of style when it comes to filmmaking. You don't see too often. But I really like it, and I really hope he never really changes that style. The plot of this film, when I explain it to people, is a bit odd. Usually when I get to the end of the plot summary. So this film is set in a world where it is basically illegal to be single. You have to be in a relationship. If you are single, you go to this hotel, and you have 45 days in order to find a partner. And if you don't, you get turned into an animal of your choice. It's, yeah. So, um, originally I thought they just turned into an animal. They didn't have a choice, it just happens. But no, they get turned into an animal by other people. So that's quite strange. But it doesn't matter. So, um, and if they capture single people, they get another day added on, so they get longer. So they go on hunts to find like single people in the woods, and they get turned into animals, which is quite funny, I think. We have our main character called David, played by Colin Farrell, who is just brilliant. See, when he uses his Irish accent, I just love it because he's just funny. There is a lot of comedy in this movie, but it's very dry wit. It's very monotoned. I find it funny, not laugh out loud funny, but I did find it funny. And maybe it's just because it's Colin Farrell's Irish accent, but he does have some pretty good lines in this, I think. It's not as funny as in Bruges, but what this film is really about is just the idea of relationships and how society puts pressure on us to be in relationships with people. I mean, it's technically illegal to be single, and you have 45 days to get a partner again. Now, the 45-day thing, I can almost translate that to years in some way. By, there's a certain age you feel like you need to be with someone, and maybe 45 is a point where you have to be with someone. Like at that age, if you're single, there's just something wrong, maybe. I mean, it's daft that you feel like you need to be in a relationship, but this is the kind of pressure that society kind of makes us feel, that the happiest lifestyle is to have a family, be with someone you love and have children, which is nonsense. You don't have to be like that to be happy. But a lot of people do feel that pressure, myself included sometimes. I feel like I shouldn't be alone, I should be with someone. Because of these pressures, we start trying to find a partner really badly, and it almost leads to desperation at some points. So what happens is characters, not only are they defined by a very specific trait they have, but they're also named for that. So if you look on IMDb, the only character that has a name is David. Everybody else is called, is it Nosebleed Woman? Things like that. There, it's just nicknames. That's something that defines them, or they think that defines them in a very important way. So we follow John C. Reilly and the guy who played, is it Q in Skyfall, and Colin Farrell. And I really should have researched that one, shouldn't I? Right. So we follow Colin Farrell as he just doesn't seem to make any sort of attempt to even try and be with anybody else. It's only when he gets to the last few days that he makes this sort of desperate attempt to be with someone, a woman who just has no feelings and likes to see people get hurt. She just has no emotion whatsoever. And when a woman tries to commit suicide, she is screaming on the ground, blood's pouring out, she's just crying and crying, and people are going to her aid, while this woman just sits and watches, and Colin Farrell goes over to her and just goes, oh, I hope she doesn't die too soon, I hope she bleeds to death. Things like that there. He's really trying hard to be with someone that he's really not compatible with, but he's that desperate, he feels like he's running out of time. And I feel like that is definitely something that relates to, society today. Maybe even a long time ago, I don't know. But today I can definitely tell that is something that is the case. We desperately try and find someone that we have sort of a compatibility with. But the problem is people think that we need to have something in common, something very specific that makes us compatible. But that isn't the case in real life. I can tell that from experience. Having something in common doesn't create a compatible relationship. It is just basically how you get on. There's other things to take into account. You both don't have to have a same trait in order to connect properly. If anything, the opposites may work. I know relationships where people don't have certain things in common and it works fine. But I think a lot of people think that, and that's kind of a pressure that's just put on us, or we just put on ourselves. It's not just society that kind of puts pressure on us being in a relationship. It is ourselves mostly. And maybe that comes from other external things like, society seeing people in happy relationships. But just being in a relationship doesn't necessarily make you happy. I've been in a relationship when I've been not. Yeah. I've been in a relationship where I haven't been happy. I know people that have been in a relationship that haven't been happy. And maybe that's because it just feels too forced. Some people try and stay together even though they just aren't going to work out. I feel like I'm getting a bit off topic here. Maybe we should get back to the movie. I think what I'm trying to summarize is the idea of having a certain compatibility doesn't just burn down to having very specific traits that the other person has. Now, these traits in the movie are ridiculous. This girl has a nosebleed, so this guy forcefully maybe jams something up his nose or hits his head on something to make his nose bleed, to show that they have some sort of, compatibility. Later on, Colin Farrell meets Rachel Weisz, who again doesn't even have a name. I just know her as a short-sighted woman. But because she has a problem with her eyesight, she doesn't have glasses, but her eyesight isn't perfect. He feels they are compatible. Although the relationship they have feels very organic, you do know that the idea of her having this sort of short-sightedness is what initially starts his interest. Again, Colin Farrell is still in this mindset that he needs to, have a certain trait in common with someone to be with them. The reason his forced relationship didn't work out before he left the hotel is because she found out he does have an emotional side. She killed his brother, who was a dog, and obviously he has an emotional connection with, that dog, or his brother. And so she knows that he has feelings and they're not compatible. And so she basically tries to get him turned into an animal. This works with Lanthimos' style. His characters are always very monotone. There's not really a huge expression of emotion in their dialogue. which at first I found very strange. Obviously, it was on purpose. But obviously, for a newcomer to his work, it'll just come off as very odd, and you just why is it like that? Doesn't make any sense. But it actually does. There is a lot of reasons for this. After you watch a few other of his movies, you'll start to kind of catch on as to how it works and why it works so well. Because the dialogue and the music is so monotone at times, it does create this very uncomfortable feeling all the time, and that's what he wants us to feel. And this works extremely well in Dogtooth, and he's translated that to his other films. What I think this does is it forces the audience to think. It doesn't ask you to think, it makes you think, regardless of how you feel at the time. It makes you just put ideas in your head. You're wondering about what's going on, and you're starting to think of the strangest things. That's what I find myself doing. I'm just coming up with these strange ideas, maybe this, maybe that. And I think that's what makes me feel very uncomfortable in his sort of universe. And I did feel uncomfortable at times, because I did relate a lot of things in my life to this movie. And maybe that's why it spoke to me. I got it. It made sense to me. Eventually, Colin Farrell has to leave the hotel. He meets all the singletons, the loners of the film. And you're not allowed to have a relationship when you're with these people. This is led by, I can't remember her name. It's a French woman. Pretty sure it was. But she's very aggressive towards him. And she doesn't want anyone together. And I've seen a theory that she might be bisexual. And there is parts in the film that kind of cater to that idea, and maybe it's because she can't be with someone. Maybe that's why she doesn't like other people being together. Because at the beginning, you have to choose your sexuality, homosexual or straight. Bisexual wasn't an option. Maybe this is something to do with that. It's the frustration of not being able to identify with people because you're different. I don't know. There's a lot of meaning in that. Being bisexual makes it more difficult because if everyone's picked straight or homosexual, maybe it just won't work. Maybe she's not compatible, because in this world, maybe being bisexual, you have to be with someone else who's bisexual. Because you're bisexual, you're going out with a homosexual, a straight person. There might be some sort of disconnect or something like that. Obviously, I'm not saying that's true, but that's what I'm kind of getting the idea from what this film is trying to say, possibly. I really love Rachel Weisz's performance in this, and I think it's one of her best films. She's perfect in this role. She is short-sighted, and eventually she is blinded because the French lady, I'm just going to call her the French lady, figures out what's going on, and she makes her blind by taking her to a doctor. Or an eye doctor. I don't know what an eye doctor is called. And he makes her blind. So when Colin finds this out, he sort of has this dilemma, because he can see, she can't see. Does that make them compatible? And so they eventually just run off. They leave the group and try and be together. And Colin Farrell goes into the bathroom in this restaurant, and he holds something sharp to his eyes, and he's just going like this here, and it's really cringy just watching it, because we're just like, oh god, he's gonna stab his eyes. And then it cuts back to Rachel Weisz sitting waiting for him to come back, and it just lingers there for ages and doesn't come back, and then it just cuts, and then credits roll. And that was just the perfect way this film could end, because the ideas that was going through our heads, is he going to do it? Is he not going to do it? Is he going to pretend he did it? He could come back. I thought it would have been good if he just came back, but we couldn't see what happened. But then I feel like, no, that cuts out a lot of other sort of options that could have happened. Because the fact that I had the idea that he could come back and we don't know is another sort of ending that could have happened. I came up with that idea myself. So it didn't need to be shown to me, basically, is what I'm saying. And living a lie, could have, she wouldn't know about it, but would you want that? So there's many different ways you can interpret that ending. Did he finally figure out that maybe having this compatibility isn't what makes a good relationship? I just want to talk about the beginning quickly as well, because I found it hilarious. I understood it because I knew what the plot was before watching this, and it's just a woman driving. She gets out of a car, shoots a donkey, and that's it. And obviously, anybody who's just watching this film doesn't know anything about it will just be like, "What the fuck? Why did she just drive all the way out here to shoot a donkey?" So I just love that. I thought that was hilarious. Um, a lot of the questions are left unanswered. So Colin Farrell tells the nosebleed girl that her husband is lying to her, that he's only making his nosebleed so they have this compatibility. We never find out what goes on there. I mean, it could work, it might not. They've been together, they seem to get along. We see how some relationships work and some don't. We never really see a relationship work. That is the one thing we just don't see. We don't see a happy relationship throughout the whole film. All we see is sort of lies and deceit and just trying to find someone through desperate situations. Nothing's ever really shown to us what a really happy marriage or really happy relationship looks like. And maybe that's because none of us really know. It's not something you can create, it's just something that happens. And the problem is, this film is determined to try and create a happy relationship, but that can't happen because it's something that just can't be forced. Maybe the people that are actually in relationships in the larger cities in this film, maybe they aren't together because of compatibility. Maybe this is just an idea that our characters in this hotel are thinking of because maybe this is the reason they're there, is because they have such a bad idea of what a relationship's like. We are the outcasts. I say we. I'm not. I'm not including myself in that. Um, these people are the outcasts because they have this idea that people need to be compatible with other people to have a perfect relationship. They are the rejects that just can't be in a relationship because they just don't know how. They are people that have felt the pressure too much. A lot of these people have been in relationships before, but obviously they just failed, and maybe it's because of these reasons. There's lots to take away from this film. If you have been in different relationships, some good, some bad, I think you can gain a lot from this film. It really just shows how pressurizing being with someone can be in a society like this. Things are different nowadays. Back in the day, maybe, people got married, they stuck together. I know a lot of older couples are still together, but nowadays divorce seems just to be more normal than anything, which is quite a depressing thought. So I maybe just end it there. There probably is a lot more to talk about. But I really love this film because I feel like it was very honest. Obviously, life isn't exactly like this film. This is just pushing things to the extreme. But I really think it shows us just how a lot of people might view relationships and how it's the wrong way to see them. And I personally agree. For me, sense of humor is definitely. I've been out on dates with people. I've been with people for a short while that we had, things in common. We had certain likes, things like that there. And that doesn't always work. It only lasts for a while. You have something in common, you talk about it, you move on, what's to talk about next? With Rachel Weisz and Colin Farrell, you could tell they had a connection eventually. It didn't matter about the eyesight, it was never really brought up. It was only a sort of beginning and an ending sort of thing. But in the middle, it was just them enjoying themselves. They had fun doing things in secret. I really recommend that you watch this film. Even if you didn't like it the first time round, watch it again. But go in just really thinking about it. This isn't a film where you can just switch off. If you listen and pay attention, you will get a lot out of this movie. I'm giving this film a 10 out of 10. This is definitely one of my favourite films I've seen in a long time, and it'll definitely be either first or second on my 2015 list if I ever get around to making that. There's still another contender in 2015 for me. But I love this movie and I really recommend it to a lot of people. It's not something I don't think a lot of people can get into as much as I did. It's definitely quite out there, and the style might put so many people off. That's I think my biggest issue is. He's definitely an acquired taste, I think, when it comes to his sort of the way he does things. Personally, I like it, but I really needed to watch other films. I needed to watch more than just one to truly understand what he's going for and how his directing style really influences his stories. So that was my first proper analysis video. Obviously, I don't think this is perfect. I can't believe I'm saying this in the video. This is shit. Oops. Please let me know how I did. I think I could definitely improve in certain ways. I'm still getting used to talking in front of a camera. So please comment below with any criticism you want. I don't get offended by these things as long as you're trying to help and not just going, you're shite. Tell me, what could I have done wrong? Could I grow my hair better? I don't know. Could I, brush up a bit more? I know I've kind of just sat down. I think my black shirt that I normally wear is in the washing machine. I can't remember because I was wearing it the other night while I was partying, and I can't remember what I've done with it. Um, so please just comment below, let me know what you think, and please keep watching my videos.